So you want to chamber your own barrel, and you've done it for a REM 700, maybe you've done it for one like an Origin where it's flat, but you've never done one with a cone. And how do you measure it? Well, this is an American rifle company, Coupe. These are amazing, amazing actions. If you wait till the end, I will show footage of actually cutting the recess for the bolt nose. They use a cone-shaped bolt, and they require a cone-shaped recess for the bolt nose. But how do you measure that? If you look at American Rifle Company's blueprint, which I will put right here, if you're doing a really large caliber, something that has a case head that's over 1/2 inch, you can get away with a flat bolt face. But for normal calibers, or I shouldn't say normal, average stuff that we shoot, you know, with a 308 standard bolt face, things like that, like, you know, whether it's 308, 6.5 PRC. This particular one that I'm making right now is in 300 PRC, and I just finished doing the chamber on this, and I figured I'd show you how it's done, how you can measure it at home. American Rifle Company's blueprint right here. It shows you to measure this with an 1.25 inch gauge ball. So they want you to use a depth mic with a gauge ball. Now the problem with using a ball, it's not flat, which means when you go to measure it, it's going to be off. I don't know of a way to do that without it tilting. And what I mean by that, for example, this is a piece of cut off end of a barrel. When you measure off of this surface and you try to get your measurement, if it comes up slightly or it's not up enough, you can be off a couple thou easily and not realize it. And that's going to be a problem. If you look at the blueprint, there is a number on the blueprint, a specific number, I think it's 147 thousandths, from the case head on the go gauge. That's a really, really hard way to do that, and to be honest, I don't know a way to measure that. But I do know a way to measure it the way that I do it. Now I gotta warn you, if you're gonna do it this way, the caveat is you can't measure it once it's already been cut. I think I'm gonna try to make a tool to be able to measure afterwards, but the way that I do them, you cut your 30 degrees because that's what's on the blueprint, and as you come in, I can keep coming in and I can thread the action on. As you thread the action on, the bolt nose is going to get closer to the point that it touches. When it hits that flat edge, it's going to bottom out, and that's going to not allow the action to screw on anymore, and you can measure that gap. Now, in the beginning, because the chamber wasn't cut, it's just going to hit flat, and then I cut a little more and it's still going to hit flat, and I cut a little more and it's still going to hit flat, and eventually it's going to start to move. So I'm taking small cuts. In the footage I show, I start out with a 35 thousandths of an inch feeler gauge, so I know I can take off 35 thou with no problem, and I still have plenty of clearance left. Eventually, that feeler gauge gets smaller. When it's down to that, I can get down to where I can hit 0 and go 10 thou pass. Now the industry standard on clearances for things like this is 10 thousandths of an inch. Personally, on my personal guns, I like to run 5 thousandths clearance. I just like them a little bit tighter. Is it better? It's arguable, but it's what I like to run. But on a pre-fit barrel for someone, I'm gonna run 10 thou because that's the industry standard because of one thing: tolerance stacking. You can have a bolt lug that has 1/1000th of an inch tolerance, a bolt face in the raceways that has 1/1000th of an inch tolerance. All these tolerances can add up here and there. Next thing you know, you're 4/1000ths of an inch off in tolerance and still in spec. And by having that 10 thou gap, it's plenty supported. The chamber is completely supported. There's none of the case is not supported. On the blueprint, it shows that gauge ball. So I think it shows it on McMaster Carr as a part to order. It is an 1.25 inch gauge ball. I couldn't find that part anywhere. Not to mention, like I said, how are you going to measure off something round? If you had a depth mic that had 2 measuring surfaces, in theory you could have it on each side, but it would have to be the right dimension to cover the tenon, which is pretty standard. These are all pretty much an 1.0625. If you follow this method, hopefully it'll help you be able to do it. You can do this for a bat machine. I think it's 25 degrees. I just did one of those the other day. I'll show some close-ups of, I have a carriage stop that has a micrometer on it, so I can inch my carriage forward. I did try to narrate the video while I was filming it. We'll see, hopefully If it's missing some stuff, I'll try to add some narration in there to highlight what I'm doing. But essentially, creep up on it, keep it at 30 degrees. Eventually, you'll get to 0. At that point, it's 10 thou past that. That gives you your clearance. Now, once you've cut that, there's no way to measure it this way because once it's gone, it's gone. I think what I'm going to do is take a scrap piece of steel, not barrel steel because it'll have a hole in it. I'm going to cut a 30-degree cone on the scrap steel and then cut the end flat and face it off. That's going to give me a gauge, and that gauge, the dimension will be irrelevant. I can make it whatever I want as long as it's comfortable and easy to handle. The tenon length on this is, I think, 760. So if I go 240 thou deeper, that means I need to swap out the piece on my depth gauge to jump from 1 inch to 2 inch. So if I keep the end of that tool less than 1/4 of an inch, I should be okay. And what that'll do is that will allow me to have a piece with a 30-degree cone that can sit in here and have a flat surface to then use my depth gauge off of. So if I need to check references on that, I'll be able to do it that way. Next, I just gotta thread this and it'll be ready. But American Rifle Company makes amazing actions. For the money, they're unbelievable. Shameless plug, we are a dealer for American Rifle Company. They are on our website, gunblitz.com. Right now it says out of stock because we're waiting on more to come in. So if you click on it and try to order it, it'll let you do it, but they're not here yet. Once they arrive, I will update it to show in stock. Hopefully this helps somebody that's been thinking about trying to cut their own barrel, but they're a little bit intimidated by it. It's really not hard. Like I say, this is all stuff anybody can do at home. Go out there, get your hands dirty, have some fun. Nothing to it but to do it. Here we can see that this has been faced off. I started a little bit of a chamfer. So what I'm going to do here to measure this is I'm going to thread the action on, and with the bolt closed, I can measure the gap. And that is going to give me the distance of how far I have to come in with this chamfer. So let's get our tool off so it's out of the way. And the one thing to keep in mind is do not adjust your cross slide. You can adjust in and out on your compound, but not on your cross slide because that will throw your dimensions off. We're going to put our bolt in. We're going to close it. Now with it closed, we can thread the action on until it stops. And there's not a lot of gap right there. You can't really see it. We'll see if I can take a picture of that. So I grabbed my proto feeler gauges. These are certified and calibrated. I'm going to start with my 35. That's my biggest one. And it fits no problem. So I know I can take off 35 thou before I need to measure again. Alright, so let's get our tool back on. My micrometer stop is right here. So I can move this wherever I need to, and I can adjust how much I need. Right now I'm on 20 thousandths, and I know I want to take another 35. I'm going to do it 10 thou at a time. So we'll come into 40. If I wanted to, I can lock this carriage in place. Now we'll go ahead and thread our action on, and we'll measure with the feeler gauge. We're going to get a number that's smaller than 35. And when I chamber this, I will have this all stripped. I won't do it with the firing pin in and the trigger and whatnot. This is just to measure for the bolt nose clearance. Give us a nice surface finish. Beautiful. And I'll still polish that anyway. And keep in mind, if you polish that, you're going to lose about another 1/1000th of an inch, depending on how aggressive you get. Getting closer. We're starting to get something that resembles a cone. Now we're getting close. 35 no longer fits. Let's try around a 15. 15. A little tight on a 15. So we're going to come 10 because I'm going to creep up on it. I don't want to overshoot it. Once you get to 0, you can't measure this way anymore. Not without having a gauge ball. Man, that is so close. That is so close. To the naked eye, it almost looks like it's touching. 10th thou feeler gauge. And it doesn't fit, which it shouldn't. We should be at about 5 or 6. 6 won't fit. Let's try 4. Looks like I got 2 stuck together. When they get thin, that's easy to happen. Try 5. 4. 3. 3/1000ths of an inch from 0. Snug that down, it might even be less. And that's the thing to keep in mind. You're going to torque this, and that number is going to change as well by about 1/1000th of an inch. So we're at 2/1000ths from 0. Right at 2. So I know when I take 2 more thousandths of an inch off of here, I'm going to be at 0, and I want 10/1000ths of an inch clearance. So I want to come a total of 12, and that's going to give me exactly the right clearance I need. Also, somebody might notice I am wearing long sleeves. My garage is absolutely freezing right now. I do not put my hands anywhere near this machine when I have sleeves on at all. I won't polish anything. My hands don't go anywhere near it. And I'm going to take this in steps. I'm going to take 5, 5, and then 2. I do have a brush, I don't know where it is right now. 2/1000ths of an inch for the last pass. Finish looks great. We should be able to thread this all the way on with the bolt open and then close the bolt, and it should close nice because we have exactly 10/1000ths of an inch of clearance. Alright, so our action is good and tight. And there we go. Now we have bolt nose clearance. And that is how you cut a bolt nose recess when you don't have a gauge ball.